Okay, so morning, in the previous session, we were talking about this neural network, and then we walked through the code. Now let's see how this neural network evolved. What was the starting point? Why people have given the name this neural network and neurons? Okay, so actually, see, it has been inspired from the brain neurons. So in our brain, we have a set of neurons. We have a lot of neurons. Then we have axons. So this is the structure of the brain. Okay. So we have like cell here. Then so whenever you are doing some activity, the neurons will be activated at this point. Like a lot of neurons will be activated, and they will exchange the information, and the information are getting exchanged through the axon. So axon is just like pipe or maybe wire by which the signals are uh, getting exchanged. Okay, so somehow researchers have got the correlation between this and this. So this is like human brain, the neurons of the human brain, and this is your artificial neural network that we are talking here. So they have somehow correlated, like they have somehow tried to relate this with human neurons, and they have given the analogy that so just like what we have seen in the past, like neural network. So we are giving the input. So we have like x0, x1, x2, and so on. These are the inputs, and that we are giving to the like neural network. And what is happening in the neural network? It's like w is getting multiplied with x. So you know that in W we are having a lot of values. So and again you also know that one row will be multiplied with your input, and it will give you one output. Okay, so same thing can be represented in this way. So in this row we have W0. Maybe I should write W0, W1, W1, W2, and so on. Okay, and this is getting multiplied with your x0, x1, x2, x3, and so on. So you can see here w0 x0, w1 x1, w2 x2, and so on. And then you are summing all the values, because the same thing what we have discussed. So it's like dot product between this and this. So every value is multiplied, every value of the w is multiplied with the corresponding value of the x, and then at the end you are just summing all the values. So this is happening, and then adding the bias, and then applying the activation function. So similar type of stuff we can also see in the case of human brain. Okay, like here also there will be some input. So like the whenever you are doing some activity, then some electrical signals will be generated. So that will be like input, and then we will be having synapse, and then dendrites, dendrite will do the it is having the weight, and this weight will be multiplied with x0, and this x0 is like your input. So it's coming from the axon is like that is the way, or you can say that pipe, or maybe it can seen as a wire by which your signals are coming. Okay, and then it's like it can be considered as a this part can be considered as a cell body where everything is getting summed, and you are applying the bias, and then getting the applying the activation function, and finally you are getting the output value. And again, whatever output you are getting, it will be given, it will pass, it will be given to the next neuron, and it will go through the axon. So somehow people have realized that we have similar type of structure here also, like this, and they said that they have given the analogy that this is artificial neural network. Okay, so this is like human neural network, and this is artificial network. Okay, like this again, activation function. This we already have discussed. But in reality, your biological neuron is very complex connectivity pattern. They have given analogy, researchers have given analogy, but in reality, this is very, very complex. So human brain, that pattern is very, very complex. And if I see the neural network, the neural network is having a regular structure. We are just putting one layer to second layer, third layer. So there is like some structure. In that way, like we are just defining things in a structure manner. Here, things are very, very complex. So we cannot say like what is the structure here. Okay, so it's very difficult to find the structure here, like how they are connected. But here you can because we already have developed it. So here the structure is very, very regular, and it's like simpler structure compared to this. Okay, one more thing is like neural network, even with the random connection, can work well. So again, these are all the analogy that people have given in the past. This paper published in 2019 has said that even if you are randomly void this neural network, it can give the it can give the good performance. Okay, so these are like just analogy, and they have tried to compare with the human brain. Okay, how this is similar to the human brain, and that's why this whole evolution started from the human brain only. So they like initially they tried to mimic, like goal is to try to mimic the human brain, and that's why whatever in the human brain, can we uh, like we can say, can we correlate different terms of the human brain with this artificial neural network terminology. Okay, but let's see the next slide. But be very careful with your brain analogy. So human brain is different and artificial neural network is different. So whatever analogy we have given, that's fine, because somehow we have tried to correlate between human brain and this, and everything whatever we have in the in artificial neural network, all the terms we try to get most of the terms from the human brain terminology. Okay, but in reality, your biological brain neuron is having many different types. In this brain, you have dendrite, which can perform very complex nonlinear computation, and synapses that we see containing the weight, but are not a single weight, but it could be having the very, very complex nonlinear dynamical system. So in reality, human neuron, like your brain neuron, biological neuron, and artificial neurons are different thing. Okay, but somehow we found that there is some similarity, and that's why the things or the terminology have been derived from the human brain. Okay, so I've just given like I'll just these all the slides were like just giving the relationship between your human biological neurons and the artificial neurons. Okay, now let's go for the next part. Okay, so now we have seen that we can make the neural network. We already have gone through this, and neural network. Once we have the neural network, now the thing is like we have to train it. Okay. So till now what we have seen, we have defined the neural network. So this is your neural network. So suppose you have two layer neural network. So this is W1 into X, and then you are multiplying max. You're multiplying these two, then applying max function over this, like activation function, again applying the W2, getting the score. Then using the score, you can find the SVM loss or maybe any type of loss function here. And this is your data loss. In the similar manner, you can find the regularization loss. And suppose you have only 2W, then you have to apply regularization loss on W1 and W2. This is your data loss. This is regularization loss. These two are like your regularization loss. Now this part is done. So next goal is how to calculate gradient, because you know that you have to calculate the gradient of loss with respect to all those parameters. And you know like which are the parameters. We have W1 and W2. These are the parameters that you are going to learn, that you are going to optimize. So we got the loss. Now the thing is how to find these gradients. Okay, so let's go. Let us find the gradient. Okay, so the goal by is very simple. We got the loss and find the gradient of loss with respect to W1. Find the gradient of loss with respect to W2, and our goal is solved. We will achieving the goal. Now let us start to find this gradient. So once you start this finding the gradient, so you'll just expand the term, because you have to find this gradient with respect to W. So L you have written in this way. Now you just expand these terms like multiplying, just multiplying with W and like that. You have to include everything, because this loss is coming from all the previous operations like this. Okay, so you'll expand this. So once you are expanding like this, is since loss is it's like function, it's like combination of multiple functions. Okay, so you have to just expand those all the functions. Similarly for this also, suppose you did it, and now you are going to find the gradient of L with respect to W1 and then W2. Now what you feel, how much time it will take? Suppose you have 100 layers, 100 Ws, and you're going to find 8. If you are going to find 8, it will take a lot of time, because this is very complex function. So for the very small function, you know how should I find it. But if you have very complex function, then you have to like apply multiple chain rule, and again you have to differentiate, you have to consider all the terms. So it will take a lot of time. So if I give you this loss function, and if I say you that find the derivative of this loss with respect to W1 or W2, and if you start writing the derivation on your page or like your notebook, it may take maybe 6 hours, 7 hours. Okay, that is the problem, because it's very tedious task, because a lot of matrix calculus that you need to do. But suppose I've given you and then you have done. Maybe after 6 hours you come up with like solution, and then you just shown the result to me, and then maybe I'll be happy, and then what I'll tell you that you go and just implement it. Okay. Now after doing the experiment, what we realized that the loss function that we have used is not working good. Now previously you used suppose you have used the SVM, and suppose this is not working good, then I'll tell you, hey, what the loss function that you have used, that is not good, you change the loss function. Now if you're changing the loss function, again this function would be changed, and if this function would be changed, you have to find the derivative again, del L by del W1. Okay. So again, you have to spend 6 hours. Okay, so this is not feasible solution, because every time if something is getting changed, you have to derive this gradient expression again. Okay, so this is not the good idea. Okay, because it takes a lot of time and very tedious task. So what is the alternate solution? So the alternate solution is backpropagation. So the idea is to make the computational graph and then do the back propagation. And that back propagation will be done using chain rule. So I will come to that, and I will go through the example as well. Okay, so let me just. Okay, even if you go for very complex network like LXNet or maybe even more complex network, so in this case, just wait for a moment. So what I was saying that for the fully connected, still we can tolerate because a small network. We can directly find the our gradient. But again, even in the fully connected, also it's very difficult. It's very tedious. Now, if I give you convolutional network, which is even more complex, which is again having a lot of layers, then things will be more complex. So the direct formula of finding del L by del W will not work. Okay. And that's why I said like this will be very tedious. So back propagation will be the solution, and we'll see the back propagation. Like you can see also one more example here. This is very complex network. So now you cannot you cannot think about like finding the del L by del W directly. So I'm just giving you like different scenario, like even different complex scenario. So that the first one was like, again, first one was also complex scenario, but we have more complex scenario where it is again, it will be more difficult. So that's why don't go with direct calculating the this gradient. Instead, we'll be following the back propagation by using computational graph. And back propagation is just like your applying the chain rule. So next topic is back propagation, which is the core component of this neural network, because everything, whatever changes you are going to do, that is dependent on the back propagation. Okay, so let us understand this back propagation through very simple example. Let us take very simple function, and then we'll do it. Let us assume that we have given this function, which is having x, y, and z. These are like variables, and this function is this, just adding the x and y and multiplying with z. Now let us make the computational graph. So how we do it? We'll take two variables at a time. So you can see here. So I'm taking x, y. This is the inner the part of the bracket. So x, y, and plus. Now this will give you some new value, some new variable. So let us assume that x plus y equal to q. So I'm giving this new output as a q. And then we have z here. Now z, whatever we are getting from this addition, that will be multiplied with z. You can see here. So now this is q. Suppose I'm giving name q to this variable. So now this q will be multiplied with z, and that will give you the final output f. Okay. So this is the computational graph. Now let's take some value and then see how the value, like what value we are getting. I'm just doing it. So suppose I'm taking these values. Okay, because you know that x, y, z, z, these are like variables, so you can take any values for that. So for suppose you are taking x equal to -2, y equal to 5, and z equal to -4. So if I do x plus y here, I'll get 5 plus -2, that will give you 3, and then -4 into 3, that will give you -12. Now this is the forward pass, because you are just doing the multiplication. You're just doing the multiplication and addition. Okay, so you are applying the function and moving in a forward direction. Now you have to go back. Now we have to find the gradient. Okay, so I'm just going to show you like how we'll go back and we'll find the gradient with respect to x, y, and z, because these are the variables. Okay, before that, before before like starting from here, first let us see the local part, the local computation. So if I just see here this part, only this part. So here what is happening here? Just we are adding x plus y, q equal to x plus y. This is the operation that we are performing. And if I say you like what is the gradient of q with respect to x, like what is the derivative of q with respect to x, you can easily say 1. Del x by del x, that is 1. Very simple answer. And why the constant for that? So del q by del x will give you 1, and del q by del y will also give you 1. This is very standard 10th standard mathematics. So this can be done very easily. Now let's come to this part. In this part, what is this function? This function is f equal to qz. Q is this, z is this. So doing the multiplication. So if I find you like, if I ask you like what is the derivative of f with respect to q, you know what is the answer. The answer is z. Okay. Okay, because for q, your z will be constant, so constant will come out. Okay. If I say you like what is the derivative of f with respect to z, you can say q. Okay. So these are very simple mathematics, and we are just calculating these all the stuff. So these all the simple like derivative of simple function that we are just calculating. But we have to solve the bigger problem, and that bigger problem is finding the derivative of f, because this is the final function. This is the final term. So we have to find the derivative of this f with respect to x, with respect to y, and with respect to z. Okay, so let us follow the chain rule. So we'll not directly find it. You also, I know that you guys can also directly find it because this is very simple function. But if I give you a very complex function, then in a direct manner, it's very difficult. So that's why not we should consider the chain rule from the starting only. Whenever, like whatever function we have, we just apply the chain rule. So let us follow the chain rule, or we can say backpropagation. So what we do, we start with the base condition. So suppose I'm here at this point, and if I want to find the derivative of f with respect to f, then what would be the answer? You know the answer. The answer would be 1, because you're finding the derivative of same variable with respect to same variable. So this is called base condition. Okay, we'll see like what is the use of this. We'll get to know. Again, this base condition is also required. So whenever you are writing some algorithm or any code, you know that your base condition is also required. So I'm just finding the base condition here. So derivative of f with respect to f, that will give you 1. Okay. So we got 1 here. Now we'll go back. Okay. So moving back means now if you just go back, we have two variables, q and z. Okay. And the function is f. So what do we need to find? We need to find del f by del z, and then del f by del q. Okay. So these two things we have to find. Now how to go back? If I say you what is the del f by del z, then you know what is the formula, what is the answer. Del f by del z we already know, that is q. And what is q here? What is the value of q? The value of q is equal to 3, because you can see 3 here. We have already have calculated it. So del f by del z will be 3. And from where it is coming? It's coming from here, because we already have computed it. Even you can also write del f by del z. Okay, let me just give something. I can write del f by del z equal to del f by del f into del f by del z. Okay. I can also write this. This is the same thing that I'm writing. I'm writing del f by del z equal to del f by del f dot del f by del z. But why I'm writing? Because I'll tell you why I'm writing. So because I'm also trying to include the base condition. Okay, so del f by del f is the base condition. I know that this will give you 1, but still I'm writing here. If I'm asking del f by del z, you first will write del f by del f, then dot del f by del z. Okay. So in this way, like you know the answer of del f by del f, that is 1, and del f by del z, that is what? Del f by del z is q, that is 3. So 1 into 3, that will give you 3. Now, let's go for the above part. Now let's find the del f by del q. So del f by del q is what? I can write del f by del q equal to del f by del f into del f by del q. Okay. So this del f by del q is like del f by del, not del q, del f by del q. So del f by del q is what? Z. And what is the value of z? That is -4. So -4 will come here. Actually, we have to find like the derivative of the final output with every variables, but we are going back one by one, and at the end again we'll apply the chain rule, and finally we'll be reaching to the required variables. Okay. So we started with this. So suppose here, like we found this del f by del f, that is 1. Then we computed del f by del z, that is your q, and q, you know what is the value of q, so that value will come here. Then we have to find del f by del z, and del f by del z is very simple. So I can write del f by del z equal to del f by, maybe I should write in another way, del f by del z. If I write, I can also write del f by del f into del f by del z. So it will not affect the things, but I'm also adding the base case. Okay. So del f by del f will give you 1 only, and del f by del z, you know, that is your q. So you know the value of the q, that is 3. So this 3 will come here. Okay. Okay. So this part is clear. And in the similar manner, you can also find del f by del q, and del f by del q is like, I can write del f by del q equal to del f by del f into del f by del q, and del f by del q is what? Z, and you know the value of z, that is -4. So -4 will come here. Okay. And del f by del f will give you 1 only. So you are applying chain rule, but here the base condition, this is the base condition, but we are somehow applying the chain rule and going back. Let's come to the next Next part. So again, we have to reach to the x, y, and z. So now come to this part. Okay. So suppose I want to apply, I want to find del f by del y. Then how should I write it? So again, follow the chain rule, just like here. So here we have followed the chain rule. If I'm finding del f by del q, that is equivalent to del f by del f into del f by del q. Now if you have to write del f by del y, then I can write del f by del q first, because it's coming in this way now. So first I'll find del f by del q and then del q by del y. So this is the same thing. Even we could be having base condition also. So maybe if I write this del f by del q and del q by del y. Okay, because you're going in this way, na? Z is this side, so we are going in this way. So del f by del y is like del f by del f dot del f by del q dot del f del q by del y. Okay, and del f by del q we know that is -4. Okay, because we already have calculated it. Now, what is this del z by del y? What is the z? Z, what is the z function? Z function is what? Sorry, what is del q by del y? What is the q function? Q function is this, q equal to x plus y, and del q by del y is 1. That we already have computed. So just multiply these all the things. So 1 into del f by del q, that is -4, into del q by del y, that is 1, which we have computed before. So it will give you -4. Okay, so in this way you can do it. Now, this is called chain rule. Because for finding del f by del y, first you are finding this, del f by del q, and then you are finding del q by del y. And then you are just multiplying these two terms. So this first term, what you are getting here, that is del f by del q, that is called upstream gradient, because it's coming from this side. Or it can be said as a global gradient. So you are getting the global gradient from the right hand side, which is this, and then you multiply with the local gradient, because this is the local function. Your local function is q equal to x plus y. That is your local function. So this is the local function, and for the local function you find the gradient. That is your local gradient, and the upstream gradient is coming from this side, which is the gradient of this with respect to this. Okay, and just multiply it. That will give you the gradient of the final term with respect to this, the initial variable. Okay. So in this way, like we are following the chain rule for getting the gradient. It's very, very simple stuff. So we already have seen these all the things in the 10th or 12th standard mathematics. Okay. Now we have to find the same thing with respect to x. So if I write del f by del x, you can now easily calculate. So you know that we have to find del f by del f first, but again, just that is the base condition, just ignore it. So we have to find del f by del q and then del q by del x. So del f by del q and del q by del x. Now del f by del q, whatever you are getting here, this is your upstream gradient, because it's coming from the right hand side. And then we have local gradient, because you have the local function here, and for that you have calculating del q by del x, and then you are just multiplying these two terms. That will give you del f by del x. So in this way, like you can apply the chain rule and will get the gradient of final output with respect to all the previous variables. So these are the variables x, y, z, q. These are the variables, but these are the variables for which we want to get all the gradients. But in between, we also have some intermediate variables that we already have introduced. Okay. So you know del f by del q, that is your -4, and del q by del x is 1. So 1 minus 4, that will give you -4. So in this way, you can find the -4 here also. You already have calculated del f by del z. That is your q. And what is q? Q is the 3. So here. So in this way, you have calculated del f by del x, del F by del Y, and del F by del Z. So this is the chain rule. So whenever you are following the chain rule, the things will be easy. So forward pass, you are making the simple, like you just it's not very complex because you are structuring, you are putting in a structure manner, and then you are going back is also very, very simple because you're just applying the chain rule and going back. So this is also called back propagation. So what we have learned from this, that if you have given x and y as the initial variable, and suppose if you are applying function, local function here, and this z is coming from the right hand side. Suppose you have a lot of function this side, and finally you this is the z. This is z you are getting from here. And if I say you find the gradient of L, because you will be having L, maybe applying a lot of function, then finally you will be getting the L. Okay. Now if I say you what will be the del L by del X, what you'll do? You'll find the upstream gradient, multiply with the local gradient. So your local function is this, your F, and you are getting Z as the output. So local gradient will be del Z by del X and del Z by del Y. This is the local gradient, and whatever upstream is coming, you multiply that with this, and that will give you the full gradient. So let me just see this thing. So you're getting the upstream gradient from the right hand side. So that is your del L by del Z. It's coming from the right hand side, and you have the local gradient here, which is del Z by del X and del Z by del Y. Now you can calculate the gradient of L with respect to X. So if I say like what is the gradient of L with respect to X, like del L by del X, so what we'll do, take the upstream gradient, which is this, and take the local gradient, which is this, del Z by del X, multiply these two terms, this will give you the gradient of final output with respect to this particular variable. So this, whatever you are getting from this side, this is called upstream because it's like coming from right hand side, and whatever you are getting here, this is called local gradient. Okay, and then you multiply it. And once you multiply these all the things, that also called downstream gradient because finally you are just multiplying this all this stuff. But upstream is coming from this side, and then local is getting multiplied, and then you are getting the downstream gradients. Because again, there could be flow also. There might be flow this side also. Maybe we could be having a lot of layers this side or a lot of function this side also. So this side, from this side, you are getting upstream multiplied with the local gradient, and then it will be like downstream gradients from this side. But this will be like upstream gradient for the another function, which will be there maybe somewhere here or maybe somewhere here. Okay, so let us take one more example. Okay, I'll allow you maybe after completing this, then I'll allow you to speak. Like you can ask multiple questions. Let us take one more example, and this is like real. It's very close to the real type of example. What you generally going to solve using neural network. So let us assume that we have this function. This is the function. Here, if you just see, this is your sigmoid function, 1 divided by 1 plus e to power something. And what is this function? This function is neural network. W0 into X0 plus W1 into X1 plus W2 and so on. Okay. And whatever you are getting from this neural network, you are applying sigmoid over this. Okay. So first you need to calculate this. First you have to make the graph for this. So let us make the graph for this, like forward pass for this. So first take W0 and X0. Suppose you have W0, X0. Do the multiplication. Then we have W1, X1, W1, X1. Do the multiplication. And then we have W2. Okay. Now further we have to do addition. So whatever you got from here, do the addition between these two. First two term addition. And then whatever you got from here, add W2 there. But job is not done because now you have to apply this sigmoid function. So first, what we have to do? First, we have to take the negative of this. Take the negative of this because you know that the negative sign is there. So whatever you got from here, this is this whole part. Now take the negative of this, minus of this. So if you take the minus of this, you will get the output. Now what you have to do? Apply exponential over that. Apply exponential. So whatever x would be given here, you apply the exponential over that. That will give you this full term. Now add 1 plus 1. And then finally you have to divide this term. Whatever, suppose this is the x. Now whatever you got, suppose let us assume that this is x. So now what you are going to do, you just divide 1 by x. And that will give you this whole stuff. Okay. Now this part is clear. Forward pass is very well. We are just making the graph of this. That's all. Let us take some values and calculate all the functions, all the values of the functions. So take W0 this, and then do all the things. Multiply here. You'll multiply, you'll get this thing. Multiply this thing, you'll get this thing. Add these two terms, you'll get this thing. Then again add this, you'll get this thing. Okay. Now suppose you got this thing. Multiply with -1. You get -1. Apply exponential over that. E to power -1, you'll get 0.37. Then add 1.37. And then 1 by 1.37 will give you this. We have calculated, like forward pass is done. Now we have to go back. Now how should I proceed? Again, follow the chain rule. So let us start with, but before going to follow this expression, let us calculate some of the required things. For example, since I know that some e to power x function is there, some a to power like a into x is there. So let us compute some simple already known function. So if you have e to power x, if you have given the function e to power x, you know what is the derivative of this. The derivative of f, the derivative of this function with respect to x is like e to power x only. If you have given a into x, and if I say you like what is the derivative of this, or what is the gradient of this with respect to x, that will be a only. So constant part will come out. If you have 1 by x, what is the gradient of this with respect to x? You know the formula, that is -1 by x squared. If I give you c plus x and say you like what is the derivative of this x, what is the derivative of this function with respect to x, you will say 1. Okay. So these are like very simple stuff. You can easily, you know, these all the things. These are all mathematics, very simple mathematics. Okay. Now let us start from the last point. Just like the previous stuff, what we have seen. Let us start from here. Because now we have to go back. First, you have to calculate this. Suppose this is your final f function. So del f by del f, that will give you 1. The derivative of same variable with same variable will give you 1. This part is very, very clear. Now just go back. Now we have to consider this part. And what is this function? If I write this thing, suppose this is x, then this function is what? Fx equal to 1 by x. And I know the derivative of 1 by x. Because here you have to find the derivative. This is your local function. So you have to find the derivative of this local function. So del f by del x. So that is 1 by minus 1 by x square. And you know the value of x square, x, that is 1.37. You put it, you will get the value. So if you put the value, you'll get this minus 0.53. Now just going back. Okay. So again, for this local gradient is this, and upstream is 1, because you have to apply the chain rule. what I said at the starting. So here, like it will be like del f by del f into del f by del x, and del f by del x is this minus, because we have 1 by x function, so 1 by x square, and x is like what, 1.37, and you are just squaring this term and multiplying with 1. 1 is like upstream, which is coming from here, and local is getting multiplied, and that is giving you this downstream gradient. And now this will be considered as an upstream gradient for the previous function. So let's go for seeing the previous function. Okay. Now just go back. Now I am here. Okay. Now here you know that your upstream is this. And what you have to do? You have to multiply your upstream with the local. That is the chain rule. Now I'm not going to explain this thing again, because you already have seen that whenever you have to find the gradient, what you do? Whenever you have to find the gradient of the final output with respect to this variable, then what you do? You just apply the chain rule. And what is the chain rule? Chain rule is like just like multiplying the upstream gradient with the local gradient. So here you got the upstream gradient, that is minus 0.3. And what is the local gradient at this case? What is this function? This function is what? Fx equal to, suppose let us assume that this is x, then what we are doing? We are just adding the 1. This is like x plus 1. And you know what is the gradient of this. If I say you like del f by del x, what is the answer? The answer is 1. So your local gradient is 1, and 1 will be multiplied with minus 0.53, and that will give you the gradient of this final thing with respect to this variable. You can see here. Okay. So in this way, you are moving back. Okay. Now I'm here. Now at this point, I have 0.53. That is the upstream gradient, like which is coming from the right hand side. And then we have local function, that is E. And what I'm doing, this is the x. Suppose this is the x. So I'm just applying e to power x. And you know what is the gradient of e to power x. Suppose this is the function, then what is the gradient of f with respect to x? That is the e to power x only. So e to power x, and what is the value of the x? That is minus 1. So e to power minus 1 into, this will be like upstream gradient, 0.53. So you can see in the next slide. So we are doing the same. So 0.53 into e to power minus 1. And that will give you the gradient of this final variable with respect to this variable. Okay. Just go back. Now we are here. So let us assume that this is x. Then the function is what? Fx equal to minus of x. And if you find the gradient of this fx with respect to x, your answer will be minus 1. So your local gradient is minus 1, and you are getting this as a upstream gradient. Multiply these two terms, that will give you the gradient of the final variable with respect to this variable. So minus 0.20 into minus 1, that will give you 0.20. You can see here, doing the same. Now go back. Now here. Now at this point, 0.20. Now what would be the local gradient at this point? Can you say me, like, what would be the local gradient here? This is the upstream gradient. What is the local function here? Let us assume this is x and this is W2. Local function is what? Fx equal to x plus W2. Addition. And in the case of addition, what would be the local gradient? If you are just adding two variable, and if I'm going to find the del fx by del x, what would be the answer? 1? 1. So your local gradient is 1. And upstream you are getting 0.20. Okay. So 0.20 into 1, that will give you 0.20. Here also you will get the same value, because in this case also your local gradient will be 1, and this is the upstream gradient. So you are applying the chain rule. So you can see the value. So 0.2, 0.2. Now this part is done. So we got this, the final term. So it means like I'm saying that del F by del W2, which I already have calculated, because this is the final thing that you are getting here. Okay. Now we have to go back in this branch. So again we have addition here. So whenever you have addition, you know the local gradient will be 1. So local 1, and you are getting 0.20. So 0.20 will be assigned to this, and 0.2 will be also assigned to this. You can see we have assigned 0.2, 0.2. Now these two terms are left still. These two functions are left still. So let's explore the first function. So now in this case, you got this as a local gradient, this as a upstream gradient, and now this is the local function. So when suppose this is like your P. So if you are finding the del F by del, what is the local function? Local function is what? P equal to W0 into X0. So if I want to find the del P by del W0, what will be the answer? X0. And for the other variable, it will be vice versa. So with respect to X0, it will be W0. So what you are doing? If you are finding the local gradients, your values are getting swapped or getting exchanged. So assign this value to this and this value to this. But that is local gradient. And you know that your local gradient will be multiplied with the global gradient, or we can say upstream gradient. So we'll do it. So just do it. So in this part, if you 0.2 and 0.20 multiplied with 1 minus 1.0, that will give you the gradient of this. And 0.20 multiplied with 2, that will give you the gradient of this part. And in this way, you can calculate this stuff for all other variables. Okay. Now the thing is, can we make this process fast? Because we know that if you go back, a lot of computation we need to do. We have to, since at every step we are applying the chain rule. We are multiplying the upstream gradient with the local gradient. Can we use some smart idea here so that this process will be fast? Okay. So for that, first we need to understand what actually we are doing here. So as I said that, firstly we are calculating this thing, which is happening in this part. Finally, at this point, we already have done this part, this whole part. And now this part is, this whole part, whatever you got from here, this can be considered as a x. And then what we are doing? We are just applying sigmoid function over that. Because this is the sigmoid function, E1 divided by 1 plus e to power x. And your x is what? So your x is W0 into X0 plus W1 into X1 plus W2. Now, can I have better or fast gradient computation for the sigmoid function? Yes, we have. If you are going to find the gradient of the sigmoid, suppose this is the 1 divided by 1 e to power minus x, and if you find the gradient of this, you will get this. E to power minus x divided by 1 plus e to power minus x whole square. You know that why we are getting it. Because first we have to find this. So this will like minus 1, then that will be like minus 2. So that is like 1 by 1 plus e to power minus x squared. So again, it is a very standard formula. You can also get it from the standard book. So suppose you got this thing. Now you can simplify it. So e to power minus x divided by 1 plus e to power minus x whole square, I can also write this term in this way. What I'm doing, I'm just adding 1 and subtracting 1. This will remain same, but just I'm putting few more value there. So if I do it, and I also open this thing. So I'll give 1 to this and 1 to this. So I've just written this thing in this way. These are both the things are same only. But why I have written? Because I have to somehow simplify it. Okay. Now you can see what is this part. This part is your sigmoid only. And what is this part? This part is your 1 minus sigmoid. You can just you can derive it. You can get this answer. So whenever you are going to find the gradient of the sigmoid with respect to x, what will get? You'll get 1 minus sigmoid into sigmoid. So since I know the formula of the gradient, why should I go through these all the steps? Okay. So what I'll do in the back propagation, I'll not find the gradient here. I can directly apply this formula and we'll get the gradient. So I can skip all these things. So I can start from here. And since I know that this is the sigmoid function that I'm applying, and for the sigmoid function, this as a x. So I can just apply this formula here, like you just put this as a x, and this will give you the gradient. So no need to do these all the computation. So whenever you are going to design, or whenever you are going to design this back propagation, you also keep this all the things in your mind, like how to make the fast this back propagation process. So suppose in some case, if you are not able to do it, this is fine. But suppose in this case, again, you can also go with these all the steps. This is also acceptable thing. But this is time consuming. Since I know the derivative of the sigmoid, which is very, very simple. So why not I should consider this only direct? So sometimes you can just use direct formula in between for making the process fast. Okay, so I'll also tell one part and then I'll stop. So whenever I'm saying, like we just see the pattern, what we have seen in the case of gradient, like this back propagation. So whenever we have addition, and suppose this is the upstream gradient that is coming from the right hand side, and we have the addition here. So what we generally do, we just distribute this to these two variables, because you know that in this case your local gradient will be 1. Okay, so just multiply the upstream with the local, and that will give you the same value what we have here. So 2 into 1, that will 2. 2 into 1, that will be 2. So whenever you have addition, whatever you are getting here, just pass it to both the variables, and that is the gradient of the final function with respect to this variable. Okay. Now let's see the multiplication. What is happening in the multiplication? So whenever we have multiplication, we know that your local gradients, like we are swapping the values, exchanging the values. So if I want to find the gradient of the final function with respect to this particular variable, then this is the upstream gradient, and the local gradient for this part will be what? 3 value exchange, and local gradient of this part will be what? 2. So here your upstream 5 multiply with 3, that will give you 15. So this is the gradient of this, like gradient of the final value, the final output with respect to this variable. Here the gradient of the final value with this variable will be 2 into 5. So you can see like the values are getting exchanged for the local gradient, and you are multiplying that with the upstream gradient. Now just see the copy part. So whenever you have copy part, so like this, So 7, and 7 is copied to the two different branches. This is the first branch, this is the second branch. Okay. Suppose you got gradient 4 in the first branch and you got gradient 2 in the second branch. Like these are like upstream gradient that you have got. And now you have to find the gradient of the final thing with respect to this. So what we'll do, we'll just add this 4 and 2. Because I know that this both are like copy of same value, same variable only. So whatever I'm getting from this side and this side, whatever gradient I'm getting from this side, whatever gradient I'm getting from this side, just add these two gradients, and that is the total gradient of the final variable with respect to this. Okay. Now let's see the last part. Suppose you are applying max function. So suppose this is x and this is y, and you are applying max of that. Now in this case, x for x is 4, y is 5, and you apply the max of this. You know that what is the value? You will be having 5. Now in the back, if you go back, like finding the gradient. So let us assume that you got the upstream gradient 9, and then you are going to back. Now what will be the local gradient? Now local gradient in this side, since this is not the maximum value, that means it is not helping you to get this output. So for this side, your gradient will be 0. Okay, because this part is not getting involved, because it's not giving you the output. Your output is coming from this side. So only this part is involved. So whatever gradient you are getting here, that will give in to this part only, because you are getting this maximum value from this part. Okay, so it means like you are just making one part 0, or maybe like for these two variables, you are making one variable as a 0 and other variable as a the same gradient that you got here. Okay, so this is the way by which we calculate all the gradients and we go back. So these are all the rules and we follow it. So in the next class, what I'll do, I'll give you one code example. So I'll go through the code and I'll show you like how these gradients are getting computed. So I've given the idea, I've given the mathematical idea. Now in the next class, we'll see like how we are going to calculate it. Okay, so here I'll stop, and now I'm open.
Sir, based upon the output that we are getting, that means loss, right? So these gradients will be calculated, right?
Yes, that's true.
So we are having n number of activation functions, right, sir? So each and every activation function will have its own gradients, and you have shown us two ways to make it simple, right? So similarly, the other activation functions should have in some shorter path to solve, right?
Yeah. Actually, for sigmoid, you know the formula of the gradient. But maybe for other gradients, if you don't know, then you have to follow the steps what we have seen here. Maybe that bigger step. But if you know the simplest formula, then you can also choose that for making the process simple or making the process fast.
So, sir, for tan h, let it be. So it should have, perhaps, I'm not sure.
Yeah, for 10h again, you have to just do the find the derivative of 10h. And if you find some correlation with the input, then that's great. Then you can just use that. Just like here, like we are just finding the gradient of the sigmoid with the x with respect to x, and we are getting the function of sigmoid only, like sigmoid x into 1 minus sigmoid x. So again, so that's why I'm saying, like whenever you are going to use some activation function, you just try to find out the simpler formula for finding the gradient. If you're not getting it, then use it as it is.
Okay. So you explained that very easily, means we are able to understand. It's very complicated one, but you make it very easy to understand. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please. Go ahead. You're asking.
So the patterns gradient flow, like it is bit unclear to me. Can you take these slides in the like the from the first flow of patterns in gradient flow, from that the slide which contained only adding gate example.
Oh, this one. This one.
Yeah, so from here, like, I didn't got.
It's just very simple. Actually, we already have seen this thing in the previous slides. So what I'm trying to tell you, like when you are doing addition, just like you're doing, you have X and you have Y, and you are doing the addition, like this is Z. Okay. So Z equal to X plus Y. So whenever you are doing this addition, so if I say you like what is the gradient of del Z by del X, you can say 1. Del Z by del Y, that is also 1. You know this, na? This is a very simple formula. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
now this 2 is coming from the right hand side. This is like
Yeah,
we
that
have
is
a
the
lot
upstream.
of function here, upstream. So when I say you like suppose this is the L, and if I say you like what is del by del X, then you will multiply the upstream with the local. Upstream
Yeah.
is 2,
Yes.
and local is what? Del Z by del X. You multiply these two things. You know that this term is 1 only. So your answer is this only, 2 only.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying like whenever you have addition, just distribute this 2 to all those variables, and that's the answer. So just for finding the pattern.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, sir. Now I got. So similarly, it was for multiplication, right?
Multiplication also, yeah. Local gradient is like it's like getting value is getting exchanged, and then you multiply the upstream gradient. That is like your total gradient. You can see here in the first case 5 into 3, so 3 is coming from here. In the for this 2 is coming here. So your local gradient, whenever you are finding the local, that means you are exchanging the value. So if I write, suppose this is
in either case, sir, in multiply or addition.
No, if this is for the addition, I already have talked. This is for multiplication. So in the case of multiplication, what I write? Del Z equal to X into Y.
X
If I
into
say
Y,
del Z by del X, what is this? Y?
Y.
Del Z by del Y, what is this? X. So your values are getting exchanged, na? So for if you're finding the gradient of Z with respect to X, then you are getting Y. If you are finding with respect to Y, then you are getting X. So your local gradients, if you are finding the local gradients, you are exchanging the values. Now, y is assigned to this
Is
one.
it like cross multiplication?
Yeah. Then your upstream is also coming, na? So upstream will be multiplied with that. So 5 into 3, that will 15. 2 into 5 will give you 10.
2 into
Just
5
we trying to find like what is the pattern there, how they are doing this thing. This is just like we're trying to observe the pattern.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, sir.
Because this will help you while designing the code. So that time you can just instead of finding the gradient, you can simply extend the value, and that's all. Why should we go for that computation, doing the computation like del Z by del X? Because since we know this is just exchanging of the values. Because while coding, you will be not having such type of things like finding gradients and like that. You have to somehow should be having the variable only. So see, if you know like how the things are getting happened, you can just use those ideas while designing the code.
Yeah.
You got
Yes,
this
sir.
stuff.
Yes. Now I got it.
And copy again, I told that in the copy case, like whatever, since these two are like copy of the same variable only, this 7 only. So now suppose you are getting upstream 4 here, upstream 2 here. So if I say you like what will be the del L by this final X, so you can say like since this is also coming from the same variable, this is also coming from the same variable, and these two variables are copy of this only. So you can say like the addition of these two, that is the total gradient. So it's like summing. If you have copy, if you are doing the copy of the things, if you are going through multiple branches, then whatever you are getting the gradients from all the branches, you sum it. That is the gradient of final L with respect to this. And for max, I already have told you. In the max, only one input will get the gradient, other will get the 0. So the input which is coming here, that will get the gradient, and it will get the same gradient what it is having the upstream at this case. Is it clear to everyone now? It's fine to everyone.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. So while designing, like while doing coding, so next time we'll do the coding. So we have the code here, and then we'll see that coding in the next class. So that time, like we'll use these all the ideas, whatever we have seen here. So whenever we'll be having addition, we'll just giving the upstream gradient to the all those variables. Whenever we'll be having the multiplication, we'll be exchanging the exchanging the value of the variables. That will be like local gradients, and then we'll multiplying with the upstream. So these are like different scenarios, and then whenever we'll be getting these type of scenarios, we'll be going accordingly.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Sir, if you go to slide number 84, sir, 84, if you go to slide number 84.
84. 84.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, any slide, sir. Any slide, just to pick any slide, sir. So here,
Yeah.
here each mathematical operation is denoted by a circular shape. So does it represent the layer there? Does it represent the layer there? Layer one, layer
No,
two,
no,
layer.
no. This is not layer. It's like this is only single layer. It's single
one
layer.
activation function. One activation function.
It's just showing one function that we are applying. So you know that this whole thing consists of multiple functions. So like this is one function, multiplication between these two variables, multiplication between these two variables. They're adding all the things. So we are just taking two inputs at a time and just making this whole process. It's like graphical representation. We are making the graphical representation, how the things are flowing.
Okay. Okay. X0 and X0 and X1 is a two different input, and correspondingly we are giving W0 and W1 as a separate weight parameters to the inputs. Correct, no, sir?
Yes, but here you can consider these all the things as a variable only. So we are giving these all the variables. This is just for the toy example. It's not like coming from the neural network architecture. I'm just showing you like how the things are going. Now we'll go to the neural network part. Then we'll see like the actual stuff. But here you can consider these all things as a variable only. So we have these W0, X0, W1, X1, W2. These all are variables only. That
And
means
everything.
these are going to change it. These are going to change.
Okay, everything is happening in single layer. This is all explained. Everything is happening in one single layer, one activation function.
You can say like this can be seen as a one layer, and then this whole thing is happening. But again, whenever you will be having a lot of layers, then you have to design the bigger graph. So you'll be having a very big graph where everything will be there. So we are going to make a single graph for our neural network. That's the job.
Okay, sir. Okay.
But the thing is like here, since I'm going one step by step now. So that's why it's making the process simpler. And also like whenever suppose you are going to change something here, so no need to calculate all the stuffs again, because if you're changing something here, you can also like your upstream gradient will be changed, but you know the local gradient that will not change. So every time, because you're also going to store the local gradient. So whenever you are calculating it, like I just with the coding perspective, whenever you are calculating this gradient, you will be calculating the local gradient and also the upstream gradient. So whenever you are going to change something, maybe in the final variable, like suppose you are changing this thing. Suppose this is let us assume that this is your SVM function. Let us assume, or maybe it could be somewhere here. And later you have changed this function with softmax. Now this part will be changed. Okay. And if this part is getting changed, then this local gradient will be changed. And once this local is getting changed, then everything should be changed. But for that, what you have to do, you just have to go back, because everyone is having the local gradient. So you no need to calculate the local gradient again. You just calculate the local gradient of this part. And then you just go back and multiply with values upstream gradient with the local gradients, and by that way, like you will be calculating all those gradients with respect to all those variables.
Okay, sir.
So that's why this process is very, very simple.
Okay.
And not tedious.
Sure, sir.
But let me just tell you, while if you go for doing coding now, you already have given one line code for this whole stuff. Just you write loss.backward, and that will do all the stuff. You no need to write all the steps, all the backpropagation thing. But since this course is about understanding this thing theoretically also, like how the things are happening. So that's why I've given this intuition. But otherwise, if you go with the coding, that's very, very simple. But my suggestion would be like you also try to make one code from the scratch. That will give you clear understanding, like how the things are happening and how these things are related with theoretical content. Later you can use it. Later you can just use the PyTorch package and do it like fastly. But at least once you should go with from the scratch for the sake of understanding. Okay, then if there is no further question, then I'll stop. And in the next class, we'll walk through the code, and then we'll start the this CNN. So next network is CNN, and but before that we have this code. So today we do not have time, so we'll cover it in the next class. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.